Hello and welcome. Tonight, officials of the Federal Capital Territory Authority seal headquarters of the People's Democratic Party, Federal Inland Revenue Service, and the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons over ground rent dues. House Speaker Abbas Tajuddin withdraws controversial bill seeking to make voting compulsory in Nigeria following widespread backlash. President Bola Tinubu to attend the 50th anniversary of ECOWAS and commission some of the administration's projects in Lagos during a 2-week visit. And U.S. President Donald Trump rebukes Vladimir Putin after more Russian missile and drone attacks on Ukraine.
On business news tonight, African leaders discuss strategies to make the continent's capital work better for development at the AfDB's 2025 annual general meetings in Abuja.
On sports news tonight, Xavi Alonso declares the start of a new era during his official unveiling as the new head coach of Real Madrid after the Spanish giant endured a disappointing 2024-25 campaign.
And from the nation's capital, FCT Police Command confirms an explosion in the Mararaba-Nyanya bypass, which has left at least one person injured. We begin tonight in the nation's capital, Abuja, where the Federal Capital Territory Administration, AfCTA, has sealed off the National Secretariat of the People's Democratic Party, the headquarters of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and several other properties over non-payment of ground rent for over 10 years. During the enforcement exercise, the FCTA's Director of Lands, Mr. Chijioke Nwakweze, explains that the properties are part of the over 4,700 land titles revoked in March 2025 due to the ground rent debt. Our correspondent Kubi Aboluwade reports.
It's day one of the enforcement exercise by officials of the Federal Capital Territory Administration to repossess properties defaulting in the payment of ground rent. The first stop is this property in Wuse Zone 5. They moved to another property in the same axis. The third stop started calmly and soon generated into an altercation between the team and officials of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. The FCTA officials eventually had their way and sealed the premises. The agency denies owing the ground rent.
On the 19th of February 2024, we wrote to the AGs and there's an acknowledgement letter here, telling them to look through our account, reconcile our payments that were made from 2000 to 2023, and give us a treasury receipt. And they have not responded to us, only for them to appear at our offices today without notifying the service.
Unrelenting in their pursuit, the FCT officials proceeded to seal more properties, including a hotel, the headquarters of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, and the National Secretariat of the People's Democratic Party.
We've gone to a number of properties and sealed them, as we did say we will do. This is a copy of the revocation notice and the evidence of service. This is him, served since the 14th of March 2025. The owner of this property, Senator Samaila Maman Kofi, was owing 28 years ground rent. And then FIRS, 34 years. One of them is 25 years. So we keep proper records. When you pay your ground rent, you have to be issued with receipt of payment. let the FIRS present the receipt of payment issued by the Lands Department or the FCTA. FIRS, too, they claim they own the property, but in our records, they don't.
This is the 8th building being sealed off by the FCT administration over non-payment of ground rents. The administration has promised that it will continue this enforcement exercise in order to send a clear message to property owners in the territory that it is no longer going to be business as usual. From Abuja, Kumbi Aboluade, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has reacted to FCTA's plan and saying that it has intervened in the ongoing crisis by granting property owners a 14-day grace period to settle their outstanding applications and regularize their documents. This latest development was announced by the Director of Land Administration in the FCT, Chijioke Nwakweze, during a media briefing today in Abuja.
The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, has intervened. By Mr. President's intervention, holders of the affected properties now have 14 days, that is 2 weeks, to settle all outstanding ground rents with the associated penalties. For properties in the central area, the sum of 5 million naira will be paid by the defaulters as penalty, in addition to the ground rents owed. Those in Maitama, Asokoro, Wusetu, and Gusape districts will pay the sum of 3 million naira as penalty, in addition to the ground rents owed. Defaulters in Wuse 1, Garki 1, and Garki 2 will pay 2 million naira as penalty, in addition to the ground rent owed.
And as expected, reactions have trailed the action of the FCTA as the caucus of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, comprising the National Working Committee of the party, governors, National Assembly members, and members of the Board of Trustees have failed to reach a consensus on whether or not the party is to hold its National Executive Committee meeting, which was scheduled for Tuesday, May the 27th. The sealing of the PDP National Secretariat earlier in the day by the Federal Capital Territory Administration had forced the party to hold its caucus meeting earlier than scheduled. Meanwhile, the acting national chairman of the party describes the action as an irresponsible act that must be challenged.
Gentlemen of the press, as you can see, we just adjourned our meeting for today to tomorrow, 10 o'clock. This meeting is going to continue. We've just set up a small committee that will give us a report tomorrow morning, and we'll continue. And we'll address you properly by the time we conclude our meeting tomorrow. And I want to use this opportunity to tell you that you can see, I'm sure you are aware that our office has been sealed. This is the height of irresponsibility from this government. If they are encouraging it, we are not going to take it lightly. In fact, they can come and arrest all of us. We are ready for that. But we condemn this in totality, and is the highest sense of irresponsibility, and we will not tolerate it. They are trying to mar democracy, and this is unacceptable. We condemn it, and we will make sure that they will have us to contend in the near future.
Away from that to matters from the Green Chambers, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, has withdrawn the bill seeking to make voting compulsory for eligible Nigerians. The bill was co-sponsored by the lawmaker representing Basa Jos North Federal Constituency of Plateau State, Daniel Ago. Leading the debate, Mr. Ago explains that the proposed legislation seeks to amend the Electoral Act 2022 to tackle the problem of low voter turnout. However, in a statement by the Speaker's Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Musa Kirishi, Mr. Tajuddin withdrew the bill after extensive consultations with a broad spectrum of stakeholders to allow for further dialogue on how best to offer voluntary participation that honors the democratic ideals and the rights of Nigerians. Female federal lawmakers are advocating the need to bridge gender gaps in legislation, policies, and operational procedures by increasing women's participation and ensuring gender-responsive security operations right here in Nigeria. Well, they made the submission during the breakfast meeting session with the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies in Abuja. The institute is a capacity-building agency of the National Assembly, which provides technical services to the legislature and other institutions of democracy in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
The National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies is leading this high-level meeting involving government officials, members of the National Assembly, policymakers, private key players, and development partners to gain insight into the proposed gender amendments to Nigeria's security sector bill. The Director General of the Institute highlights what the bill seeks to achieve.
The proposed amendments are designed to achieve the following: promote the recruitment, retention, and advancement of women across security institutions, establish clear provisions against discriminations and harassment, institutionalize gender-sensitive policies and oversight mechanisms, and finally, to align Nigerian legal framework with regional and international instruments.
For lawmakers, the National Assembly is committed to ensuring the passage of the bill and other gender-inclusive bills.
When Emily and her team came with the proposed amendments, we welcomed it, and I was glad to sponsor the bill. And for your information, that bill has passed the first reading. It was slated for second reading last Thursday, but because we were going for the APC National Summit, we couldn't finish plenary, we couldn't get to the bill before we adjourned till Tuesday. So definitely I can assure you that by this week, inshallah, we are going to be passing the second reading of that bill. And I've also gotten the assurance of a lot of our colleagues.
Internationally, we are lagging behind when it comes to gender. The passage of this bill will fulfill our international and national commitments. The country needs women to develop. The country needs women to sit at the table with the rest of the world with our head held high. I'm also in the process of the 35% gender inclusion bill. It has gone to first reading, and hopefully we'll be going to second reading next week.
The Institute plans to have more engagements with government to promote gender inclusiveness for women in government.
President Bola Tinubu is to leave Abuja on Tuesday, May the 27th for Lagos to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, with other leaders. According to the statement by his Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, the events in Lagos will include reenacting the 1975 declaration of the institution Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Victoria Island. In another event, President Tinubu, who is also the chairman of ECOWAS, will highlight the economic bloc's milestone with the only surviving head of state who signed the ECOWAS declaration, retired General Yakubu Gowon, expected to participate in all the ceremonies and deliver a speech. While in Lagos, he will also commission some projects and observe the Eid al-Kabir prayers at the State House and Dodden Barracks before returning to Abuja. In part 2, after the break, Saudi Arabia government prevents controversial preacher Sheikh Gumi from performing this year's Hajj. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Officials of the Federal Capital Territory Authority seal headquarters of the People's Democratic Party, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons over ground rent dues. House Speaker Abbas Tajuddin withdraws controversial bill seeking to make voting compulsory in Nigeria following widespread backlash. President Bola Tinubu to attend the 50th anniversary of ECOWAS and commission some of the administration's projects in Lagos during a 2-week visit. And U.S. President Donald Trump rebukes Vladimir Putin of Russia after more Russian missile and drone attacks on Ukraine. The Saudi Arabian authorities have prevented the Kaduna-based Islamic cleric Sheikh Gumi from performing the 2025 Hajj exercise. In a post on his Facebook page today, the cleric confirmed that he had returned to Nigeria. According to him, for some obvious reasons, my views about the world politics, the Saudi authorities are uncomfortable about my presence in Hajj after giving me the Hajj visa. He further disclosed that the Nigerian authorities had pledged to immediately take up the issue with the Saudi authorities while calling for prayers for the safe return of other pilgrims and the peace and prosperity of Nigeria. The Federal Capital Territory FCT Police Command has cordoned off the scene of the explosion along Mararaba-Nyanya axis and the expressway as it commenced forensic analysis of the incident to ascertain the exact cause and the nature of that explosion. According to a statement signed by the Police Public Relations Officer Josephine Ade, the FCT Police Command received a distress report regarding an explosion along that expressway at about 2:50 p.m. local time. The statement says upon receipt of that report, officers of the Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit were immediately deployed to the scene to ensure the safety of commuters and residents. According to the statement, one male victim was rescued from the scene and has been rushed to the hospital for medical attention, while a comprehensive investigation has now been started, including detailed forensic analysis to ascertain the exact cause of the sad explosion. We'll continue the news at 10 now as we head over to Abuja studios for more.
Well, thank you, Anne. Well, it's not too cheery news as we head to Kano State, where tension has gripped Rano local government area following a violent incident that led to the death of a divisional police officer and one individual, sparking unrest and destruction at the Rano Police Division. According to a statement by the Kano State Police Command, the crisis began on the evening of May 25, 2025, when a motorcycle mechanic identified as Abdullahi Musa was arrested for alleged reckless and dangerous riding. Was believed to be under the influence of intoxicants at the time of his arrest. The police stated that Musa developed health complications while in custody and was rushed to Rano General Hospital, where he unfortunately passed away earlier today at about 6 a.m. while receiving treatment. Now, following news of his death, a group of angry youths reportedly stormed the Rano Police Division, setting parts of the station ablaze and destroying several vehicles and burning 2 others. The DPO, whose name was not disclosed in the statement, was immediately rushed to Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries later that day. In the aftermath of the violence, police confirmed the arrest of 27 suspects allegedly involved in the attack. Authorities say the situation has now been brought under control. But now, Governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, has called on the Nigerian armed forces to ensure that no local government in the state falls into the hands of insurgents. While speaking in the State House after meeting with President Bola Tinubu, the governor said he had come to brief the president on the security situation in the state. He added that the president assured him that everything would be done to control the situation.
Honestly speaking, we made a plea to the federal government of Nigeria, and I believe within the last couple of days, the Nigerian armed forces have taken some certain decisions that will curtail the menace of the insurgency. And I believe something shall be done. Most importantly, some plans are underway by the federal government, especially the establishment of forest guards. That will be a game changer. Above all, as we have said it all, some of the Boko Haram and ISWAP members are using some sophisticated weapons. I believe the federal government is also working on this direction. But by and large, the president has given me assurance that they will do everything possible to control the situation, and I believe the federal government will do something. A few days ago, I made a call that no local government shall be allowed to be taken over by Boko Haram or ISWAP members. It will never happen now. So I'm calling upon the Nigerian armed forces, the civilian authorities, and all those that are concerned to rise up to the matter and defend our local government areas. I believe, inshallah, with the support of the Nigerian army, with the support of the armed forces, we will not leave a single local government to fall into the hands of the insurgents.
Away from security, Nigeria cannot continue to lag behind other African countries in port operations, and that's according to the managing director of the Nigerian Ports Authority, Mr. Abubakar Dansoho. He made the statement while on a tour of the Lekki deep sea port in Lagos over the weekend. The visit offers the NPA boss a unique opportunity to see the complex's world-class infrastructure, cutting-edge operations, and the critical role Lekki Port is playing in enhancing Nigeria's trade capacity.
The Managing Director, Nigerian Ports Authority, Abubakar Dansoho, arrives the premises of Nigeria's deepest sea port and transshipment hub, accompanied by members of his entourage. He is received by the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Lekki Deep Sea Port, Wang Kiang, and other officials of the port complex. In his welcome comments, Chairman of Lekki Deep Sea Port, Mr. Biodun Dabiri, appreciates the MD for the visit and looks forward to a closer working relationship.
I want to thank you very much, for this visit, and then I hope that it will continue to strengthen the mutually beneficial relationship between us and our regulator.
Your continued partnership has been instrumental to our progress, and we look forward to achieve even greater milestones together.
In his response, the Managing Director, Nigerian Ports Authority, Abubakar Dansoho, expresses delight on progress made so far and says with the coming of Lekki Deep Sea Port, Nigeria will take its rightful place in maritime on the continent.
There is no how in Africa Nigeria cannot lead. With our 250 million people, we cannot be following Ghana, 35 million people, Cotonou, 9 million people, Lomé, 15 million. It's not going to happen. We have to work harder to ensure that we have taken our rightful position in the scheme of things.
The Lekki Deep Sea Port is the largest seaport in Nigeria and one of the biggest in West Africa, designed to handle 1.2 million standard containers annually.
We have to working together for that public support and that private services and management. We are combining those together to make that Lekki Port to be the brightest, project, brightest PPP project in Nigeria.
The success recorded by Lekki Deep Sea Ports is an indication that Nigeria can increase its maritime operations as the government sets its sights on replicating these in other parts of the country.
Everything you are seeing here to a large extent is automated. So this is the kind of thing we want to also reproduce or replicate in other parts of Nigeria, including in Tinkan, in Apapa, and any other port that is likely to come very soon in terms of deep sea ports.
This first official visit by the MD of NPA is seen by both parties as a platform to build better collaborations that will take Nigeria to greater heights in port activities on the African continent.
The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Mr. Ahmed Dangiwa, has inaugurated a 12-member ministerial committee to assess, complete and determine the disposal strategy for the 753-unit housing estate allegedly recovered from former CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, located in Lokogoma district of the nation's capital. The estate was recently handed over to the ministry by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, following the directive of President Bola Tinubu. Mr. Dangiwa said the move is part of the renewed hope agenda to convert recovered assets to livable, secure and affordable homes for Nigerians. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, reports.
The Minister of Housing and Urban Development started his day with the inauguration of the new Board of Directors of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. Senior officials of the ministry were joined by the former governor of Kogi State, Mr. Yahaya Bello, and other dignitaries. In his address, the minister gave the board the charge to drive institutional reforms and national impact.
I expect this board to provide the strategic leadership in pushing forward the legislative amendments and institutional reform necessary to modernize the bank.
Rising from the inauguration, the new board meets to discuss their expectations and mandate.
Together, we will work as a unified team, board and management, to strengthen governance, improve service delivery, and ensure FMBN achieves its strategic objectives. I assure you of my commitment to keep the board fully informed of our progress and challenges. With open communication and shared purpose, I am confident we will lead the bank to even greater accomplishments.
We will listen carefully, act responsibly, and lead courageously to make positive impact in the housing sector in accordance with Mr. President's renewed hope agenda.
Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria should be at par with Central Bank of Nigeria in terms of welfare, scheme of service, and all the packages, because you are actually directly doing a lot. You're not a commercial bank. You're equally a policy bank.
The minister also inaugurated a 12-member ministerial committee to conduct a comprehensive review and report on the 753-unit housing estate linked to former CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele.
We're giving them 4 weeks to do that technical assessment. And once that is done, we'll source the fund and then we'll commence that completion. We intend to dispose them to the Nigerian public, and some of those houses will be given to government, will be taken over by some government needs.
The committee has 4 weeks to complete their task. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Well, still ahead on the news at 10, African leaders discuss strategies to make the continent's capital work better at AfDB's annual general meeting in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. That's on Business News. Please join us again.
Welcome back. The first set of beneficiaries from the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas Vibes Pitchathon event have received grants to support their businesses in Rivers State. The 28 beneficiaries who were selected from the pool of 100 contestants after a robust pitching event received a check for the sum of 140 million naira. Our correspondent, Charles Oporum, reports.
It's the inaugural edition of the NLNG Vibes Pitchathon event holding in Port Harcourt.
Diagnostic services.
It's a 2-day event for small business owners from across the state to pitch their ideas to a panel of judges for the chance to secure grants for their businesses. There are robust interactions as the pitchers try to convince the judges to pencil them down for grants.
Technical app for AI diagnostics, which costs about 1.2 million. And then with 800,000 naira to buy more spare parts. 400,000 naira will go into operational buffer.
You said that 1.2 million
for AI. For technical development. For AI diagnostic.
From the over 100 pitches, the judges shortlist a total of 28 businesses for grants, even as the NLNG representative describes the exercise as a success, while encouraging those who weren't successful not to relent.
If you don't get this grant, if yours is not one of the ideas picked, that does not mean that it's not a good idea. It just means that you need to look at another route. And of course, we have the MSME, that's the micro, small, and medium enterprises loan, which is in partnership with the BOI, and it's a single-digit interest rates. So for those who have, those ideas, it could be that the size of the idea is bigger than the size of this grant. You have the opportunity to, move on that.
All the beneficiaries are invited on stage where they are ceremonially presented with a check for $140 million for all of them. Some of the beneficiaries expressed their gratitude to NLNG for the grants and promised to utilize them judiciously.
I want to thank NLNG for this opportunity. I take it not for granted. And I want to also thank the facilitators for everyone that spoke to us.
I'm short of words. I just want to thank NLNG for this privilege, and I promise I won't take it for granted.
With this move, the intention of the NLNG Vibes as part of the company's corporate social responsibility is to stimulate small businesses for growth and improvement of the state's economy. Charles Opurum, Channels Television News.
We have more stories from the world of business.
Welcome to Business News. As Dr. Gumi Adesina completes his tenure as the president of the African Development Group in September this year, the bank is preparing selection process for his successor with its annual meetings in Abidjan, capital of Côte d'Ivoire. The meeting, which is scheduled for the next 5 days, would be a time for the AfDB's Board of Governors to discuss issues concerning the election, the continent's capital, as well as the launch of the 2025 African Economic Outlook. Our correspondent in Ijomekwa is there and is following the meetings.
The final week in the month of May 2025 is a memorable one for the African Development Bank Group. It's a week that they're having their annual meetings for this year. So for this week, it's going to be a very busy one with delegates of over 6,000 comprising heads of state, party representatives from the private sectors, the NGOs, and everyone, in fact, who gather, everyone of importance, that is, will gather in Abidjan to make some decisions. So the conversation will be around the theme for this year, which is making Africa's capital work better for Africa's development. But the climax of the meeting for this week is that the group is going to elect a new president as the tenure of Dr. Gumi Adesina comes to an end. To kickstart the series of meetings, the president, Dr. Gumi Adesina, holds a welcome breakfast with invited media from major countries in the continent, represented along with senior management of the bank. The essence is to capture as much as possible his strides at the bank in 10 years. One of his proud achievements is leading the bank to achieve a capital increase from $93 billion in 2015 to $318 billion today.
And now 300 million Africans will have access to electricity by 2030. These are not just figures. These are not futures. These are about hope that's going to be realized.
As he prepares to pass the baton, he says he's confident that his successor will build on the path of global financial innovation and impact, which he has started.
We have regional integration, and we are preparing Africa to lead on food security, energy access, digital transformation, and agribusiness.
Members and representatives from 91 countries have gathered to witness the process that will unveil a new president who's expected to continue the work of development in Africa at a time when trade tariff and aid cuts are top issues for governments to deal with. Amy John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
And back home, the local bourse commenced the final trading week of May on a bullish note driven by gains from 33 equities. Willie Bong tells us more.
Welcome to the stock market report. The equities market opened the first trading day of the week in the green bucket, a negative trend we closed with last week. The all-share index closed up with a fantastic 0.85%, nearly 1%, and that's a new record high we recorded there, and less than 50 basis points to hit 110. Market cap now at 69 trillion. We had market movers like NACO, Boa Foods, O&O, and Aradel. Aradel gained 45 naira 90 kobo to close at 505 naira 90 kobo today, and that's a 9.98% uptick to place it on the top gainers chart. Now, it's always a zero-sum game in the market. There are those stocks which definitely saw a depreciation in their share price. Triple G tops the losers chart with a 10% loss, followed closely by Chelaram and industrial and medical gases. And now with the Q1 GDP numbers expected today, let's see how macroeconomics will drive sentiment in the market tomorrow. And that's the stock market report. Will Ibang signing out.
Now let's find out what the closing performance of other major global stock markets was like for Monday. And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. Still to come on the news at 10, U.S. President Donald Trump rebukes Vladimir Putin after more Russian missile and drone attacks on Ukraine. And that's on the foreign scene. Please join us again. Welcome back. Outside our shores, the Kremlin says the U.S. President Donald Trump was simply being emotional after he called Russian President Vladimir Putin absolutely crazy following Moscow's largest aerial assault on Ukraine. The U.S. President said on Truth Social on Sunday that something has happened to Mr. Putin after Russia killed 13 in Ukraine with 367 drones and missiles, and has said he has gone absolutely crazy, adding that missile killed a lot. Hospital directors in Gaza say at least 54 Palestinians have been killed, most of them in school buildings sheltering displaced families during Israeli airstrikes on Gaza overnight. Fahmi al-Jagawi, a school in Gaza City, was housing hundreds of people from Beit Lahia, currently under intense Israeli military assault. At least 35 people were reported to have been killed when the school was hit. Gaza's Hamas-run civil defense said multiple bodies, including those of children, were recovered, many severely burned after fires engulfed 2 classrooms serving as the living quarters. Medical charity Medicine Sans Frontières has said that its conditions in Gaza are so dire and that babies returning from hospital are being bitten by rodents. The group's emergency coordinator, Pascal Cossiard, is based in Khan Yunis. She was making the revelation to British channel Sky News on Monday. She says that she visited in 2023, and even though she described it as hell on earth, it does not compare to the current situation.
Now, most of our facilities are full of injured people. Yesterday, I was touring the Nasser hospital, and it's not only the ICU, the intensive care unit, and the burns unit that are full of injured. It's also the extension of tents, which are usually used for light cases that are now full with injured. I was in the
Welcome to Sports News. Xavi Alonso declared the start of a new era during his official unveiling as the new head coach of Real Madrid. Alonso was appointed manager of the Spanish giant on a 3-year contract after replacing Carlo Ancelotti. Real Madrid endured a disappointing campaign, surrendering their La Liga title to Barcelona, losing to their arch rivals in the finals of the Copa del Rey and Spanish Supercopa, and crashing out of the Champions League to Arsenal in the quarterfinals. Alonso won a league and cup double with Bayern Leverkusen in 2023-24 session. The 43-year-old will begin his tenure on June 1st. Arsenal's women kicked off the celebrations this afternoon after the UEFA Women's Champions League victory in Lisbon at the weekend. The trophy was lifted at Armory Square outside the Emirates Stadium after the team's victory over Barcelona at the José Alvalade Stadium in the Portuguese capital. The 36-year-old Renée Sledger led Arsenal to Champions League glory just 4 months after being appointed as the club's new permanent boss. It is the first time Arsenal have won the Women's Champions League in 18 years since their maiden title in 2006 and 2007 season. Thousands of Liverpool fans lined the streets of Merseyside on Monday afternoon to watch the Arne Slot and his squad parade the Premier League trophy. Liverpool secured the Premier League title last month with 4 games left to play, but did not get their hands on the trophy until the final match of the campaign. The official trophy lift took place following Liverpool's draw with FA Cup winners Crystal Palace on Sunday, with both teams giving each other a guard of honor. The parade, which lasted up to 5 hours, began at Arlington Maze and finished at Blundell Street, following a route that was similarly used in 2019. And in a related development, thousands of Crystal Palace fans gathered on the street of Croydon in South London to praise their Wembley heroes who defeated Manchester City in the FA Cup final on May 17, thanks to Eberechi's early goal. It's a landmark win for many reasons, not least because it qualifies Crystal Palace for the Europa League, the club's first involvement in European football in 59 years. The parade culminated in a party on the pitch at the Selhurst Park, where Crystal Palace players and staff were presented to the fans for the final time before jetting away for their summer holidays. That sports is back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. President Bola Tinubu is to attend the 50th anniversary of ECOWAS and commission some of the administration's projects in Lagos during a 2-week visit. And we told you earlier the officials of the Federal Capital Territory today carried out a threat by sealing the headquarters of the People's Democratic Party, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons following President Tinubu's intervention. However, the FCTA has now granted a 14-day extension to defaulters. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. Good night.